And that's why I think it's worth it to get the nice guitar. Welcome back once again in the guitar room for a guitar conversation. Now, in my last video, I talked about why you should stay away from high-end expensive guitars, and this time I'm going to tell you why you should get them. If you've seen very many of my videos, you'll know that I own a few higher-end guitars, and in the last video I was pointing out that there are alternatives, but there's also a benefit to having them. And when I talk about high-end guitars, these are really the ones that you kind of look at as maybe they're your wish list guitars or the ones that you hope to have someday. And this is going to be different for everybody. For brand new beginners, you might just want to someday have a guitar that says Fender on the headstock, and that's a great place to start. But if you've owned a few, you've been playing for a while, and you know what you like, maybe you're looking beyond that. Maybe you're looking at a vintage guitar or maybe a boutique guitar. There's some really good boutique brands out there, but they typically come with a pretty hefty price tag. Some examples of that are like Novo and their electric guitars, and then Collings. They have both acoustic and electric, and they're known for being very good, but they are, $7,000 or so. But you also have smaller brands that are on the more affordable side. So this guitar right here, I've had a few questions about it. This one's a Citizen Model C2, and the parts are made in, I believe, Korea, but final assembly and setup is done in the US, and it's a smaller operation, so you get a little bit more attention to detail, and the final product comes out really great, and they're under $1,500. So you don't have to look at those extremely expensive guitars to find really good quality. And maybe you're like me, and you like Les Pauls. And I didn't even really look for anything else. I knew I wanted a really nice Les Paul, and I knew I wanted Pelham Blue. They were hard to find. So when this one popped up, I kind of spur of the moment went ahead and bought it. Probably wasn't the best financial decision, but I have no regrets. So really what I'm getting at is everyone likes different things, and when I say high-end guitars, just think of the guitar that's on your wish list. One that kind of seems maybe a little bit out of reach, but you would really love to have one day. There are a few reasons why I think it's worth getting one of these nicer, higher-end guitars. And you might look at this and think it's no different than an Epiphone. It just says Gibson on the headstock. You could modify it. You could put the right pickups in it that you want. And all of that is true, but not everybody wants to go through that process. So if that's your thing, that's great. Do that. But that's not what I want to do. So what you get out of a guitar like this is it's had a little bit more time put into it and more specific attention to detail. Combine that with a little bit more premium parts all around. So you're going to have a little bit better pickups, pots, switch, tuners. Your tuning stability is probably going to be a little bit better. The nut might be made out of something higher quality than what you find on those lower end guitars. And they're generally built to last. There's definitely room for some criticism when it comes to Gibsons from certain time periods. They had a lot of quality control issues. However, it seems that in recent years they've taken care of that pretty well. Not to say that they're perfect, but they're pretty good. And that goes across the board. If you're spending big money on a guitar, there's a chance that you get a bad one. And the opposite is true on the low-end market. You might buy a cheap Epiphone Les Paul that's just amazing. You hear of that all the time, where it's just the right piece of wood, the right combination of pickups, and it doesn't need anything done to it, and it sounds great. But one thing the Epiphone is going to lack is the resale value. The guitars that have these big brands on their headstock will typically hold their value pretty well, especially when you consider the way that guitar prices have been increasing the last few years. If you bought a brand new Les Paul 4 years ago, you can probably sell it used, as long as it's been taken care of, for about the same price that you paid for it, because the new ones are more expensive. The same thing can't be said for some of those lower end brands. And this is really easy to find. Just do a quick search of used Gibson guitars or Fender guitars, and you'll find that even the used market is running at crazy prices. But if you're like me, buying the nice guitar, you're not really thinking of selling it one day. And let me pause real quick here. If you're enjoying this video or you've watched a few of mine and you're not yet subscribed, do me a favor and click that button. That will help me out a lot in continuing to make more of these. And that brings me to the next reason. When you own a high-end guitar, or let's say just your dream guitar, one that you've been saving up for, trading up for, waiting a long time to get, it's gonna feel good. Everybody likes knowing they have top of the line equipment. And that's across the board, whether it's an amp or a guitar or a vehicle. And if you're a guitar person, you might not care about the car or the house, but when you get your hands on this instrument, you're going to be proud of it. And when you think about it, in comparison to the dream car or the dream house, getting a high-end guitar is relatively attainable. Everybody's situation is different, but for most people, the idea of owning a $230,000 Lamborghini is not something that's ever really going to happen. In comparison to some of those other big ticket items, a really nice guitar is relatively affordable. And for most people, at some point in your life, you'll probably have the chance to own a really nice instrument. And that might look like starting small and slowly trading up. Maybe you trade in a couple guitars for a little bit nicer one. But over time, you can get there. And that's not true of a $230,000 Lamborghini for most people. So when that day comes and you're holding your dream guitar, you're going to feel pretty good about it. And that puts you into this cycle of playing better. There's this effect that when you feel good, you relax a little bit. And when you relax a little bit, you're going to play a little smoother. And when you play better, you're going to feel better. And when you feel better, you relax. And when you relax, you play better. You get the point. Something as silly as looking in the mirror with a guitar you've been waiting years to get strapped around your neck can make you play better. What I'm not saying is that these guitars instantly make you better, but the effect that it has on you when you pick it up might make you play better. Plus, it takes away any excuse you have about your gear. When I was learning, I remember constantly thinking that if I had a better guitar, I'd be able to play a lot better, a lot faster. But that was just a crutch. Really, all I needed to do was practice more. And when I got my first, nicer, higher-end Les Paul, that excuse completely disappeared. And when you remove the excuses, you have nothing else to do but practice. But the biggest benefit of all is that if you own a guitar you've been dreaming of, once you have it in your hands, you will want to play it more. You'll hear people say all the time that the way a guitar looks, the color that it is, doesn't matter. But if it turns you off from picking it up, then it does matter. And that's why I think it's worth it to get the nice guitar that you want, that you think looks cool, that you can't really explain why you want it, you just want that guitar. And this might mean you're not getting a guitar off the shelf that fully does that for you. If you need to swap out the pickups or change the tuners, whatever it is, getting to the point where you have the guitar that you really, really wanted to have, you'll want to play more. And like I said at the beginning, this is different for everybody. For me, it was a Gibson Les Paul Custom, but if you're just starting out and you're just aiming to have a real Fender Strat, that's a great goal. And when you get it, you'll be really excited and you'll just want to play. When it comes down to it, they're all pretty much the same. They're a piece of wood, 6 strings, 21, 22, 24 frets, maybe some variation in pickups, but it takes the same skill set to play them. So maybe we have an ego problem, but when it comes down to it, it's probably just the feeling we get. Anyways, that's my opinion on the matter. Take it or leave it. You don't have to believe anything I say. But for me, I think it was worth it to get the nice guitar. It took away my excuses. I liked seeing it in my room, which made me want to pick it up and play it more, which ultimately made me a better player. Do what you want with the information. If you think I'm stupid, tell me in the comments, that's fine. But if you agree with me, let me know your story. How'd you end up with a guitar that you really love, and what is it? If you've made it all the way to the end, really appreciate it. Do me a favor, like the video, subscribe, send it to your friends, whatever, and check back for more down the road.